Imagine this, you're living 50,000 years ago, no hospitals, no doctors, no pills, you're out hunting, and suddenly a massive rock rolls onto your leg and shatters your shin bone in two. Clean break, bone sticking out, the kind of injury that, even today, would send you straight into emergency surgery. But here's the jaw-dropping part, that leg healed. Completely. We know this because we found the fossil. That ancient human survived a catastrophic injury, lived for years afterward, and walked again. No x-rays, no surgery, no painkillers from a pharmacy. So how did they do it? How did people, thousands of years before modern medicine even existed, survive broken bones, infected wounds, tooth pain, and childbirth? Without a single pill, injection, or doctor? Stick around until the very end, because the last thing we're going to reveal will completely flip how you see ancient humans, and honestly, how you see yourself. We live in a world where we pop an ibuprofen the second a headache hits. We have anesthesia for surgery, ice packs for bruises, and prescription opioids for serious injuries. Pain today is something we expect to turn off, fast. But for most of human history, pain was just life, a constant companion, something you had to fight with your bare hands, a handful of leaves, and the people sitting next to you around the fire. And here's what's wild. Ancient humans didn't just grit their teeth and suffer. They actually built entire systems for managing pain. Sophisticated, creative, surprisingly effective systems, some of which, believe it or not, we're still using today in a different form. Let's go back, way back, and find out exactly what was in their pain relief toolkit. The first tool ancient humans had? The forest itself. Long before anyone knew what a molecule was, people were paying close attention to plants. Which ones made you feel better? Which ones made you sleepy? Which ones numbed the pain when you pressed them against a wound? This wasn't guessing. This was thousands of years of careful observation, passed down from grandparent to grandchild, like the most important survival knowledge in the world. Take the willow tree. On the surface, it looks like just a tree. But ancient Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, and indigenous peoples across the world figured something out. When you chew the bark of a willow tree or boil it into a tea, something in it fights inflammation and dulls pain. They didn't know the science, but they knew it worked. What they were using is called salicin. And salicin, when processed by your body, turns into something that looks a lot like aspirin, the same active compound in the little white pill you take for a headache. Ancient peoples were essentially taking aspirin. They just had to chew a tree to get it. But willow bark was mild stuff compared to what came next. Around 3,500 years ago, civilizations like the Sumerians and ancient Egyptians discovered the opium poppy. This little flower, when its sap was collected and dried, produced one of the most powerful pain-relieving substances ever found on Earth. They turned it into pills, creams, and smoke. They used it for toothaches, post-battle wounds, and surgeries. That same poppy is the direct ancestor of modern morphine and codeine. The most powerful prescription painkillers we have today trace their entire existence back to an ancient farmer in Mesopotamia who figured out what that plant's white sap could do. Over in South America, the Inca civilization had their own botanical secret, coca leaves. They chewed them for energy and pain relief. But they also discovered something remarkable. If you applied the juice directly to a wound or an infected tooth, the area went numb. Local anesthesia. In the Andes. Thousands of years before the dentist's needle existed. And then there were the truly extreme options. Roman and medieval physicians worked with plants called mandrake and henbane, sedative, hallucinogenic, and intensely powerful. They would soak a sponge in a mixture of these plants and hold it under a patient's nose before cutting into them. The patient would lose consciousness. They called it a sleeping sponge. We call it early stage anesthesia. These people were not guessing randomly. They were running the world's longest pharmaceutical trial with the billions of test subjects across generations, and they were finding real answers. Now here's one that sounds absolutely insane, until you realize we still do a version of it today. A Roman doctor named Scribonius Largus had a trick for patients with crippling headaches and nerve pain. He would take a live torpedo fish, that's an electric ray, and place it directly on the patient's head or painful body part. The fish would discharge electricity into the tissue, and the pain would fade. This wasn't magic. Electric rays can produce jolts strong enough to stun prey underwater. When applied to human tissue, that current interferes with the pain signals traveling through nerves. Scribonius Largus had essentially invented electrotherapy. a technique we now use in physical therapy clinics and pain management centers worldwide. He just used a fish instead of a machine. Ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans were also obsessed with thermal therapy. Hot baths, steam rooms, cold river water after a long march. They understood, without MRI scans or physiology textbooks, that heat loosens stiff muscles, improves blood flow, and reduces the feeling of pain. Cold water reduces swelling and inflammation. Sound familiar? It should, because your physiotherapist today will tell you the exact same thing. Heat for chronic muscle tightness, cold for acute swelling. The technology hasn't changed, just the delivery method, and perhaps the most underrated strategy of all, movement. Hunter-gatherers dealing with injuries didn't have the option of lying still for weeks. Instead, they adapt. They changed how they walked. They crawled if they had to. They adjusted their posture to keep moving, keep blood flowing, keep their bodies generating the one natural painkiller no plant could replicate: endorphins, the brain's own feel-good chemicals, released through movement. They were hacking their own neurobiology without knowing the word neurobiology existed. Here's the part that will genuinely change how you see ancient humans. When archaeologists dig up ancient bones, and we're talking fossils going back millions of years, they find something extraordinary. They find healed fractures, regrown joints, evidence of amputations that the person survived for years afterward, severe injuries that, in a harsh prehistoric world with no medicine, should have been a death sentence. But they weren't, and the only possible explanation is other people. An injured hunter cannot hunt. An injured gatherer cannot gather. In a world where every calorie matters and every able body is needed, a person who breaks a leg is, in pure survival terms, a liability. The logical thing, the cold, brutal thing, would be to leave them behind. But they didn't leave them behind. Instead, the group fed them, protected them, carried their load, gave them time to heal. The community became the medicine. Other people were the painkiller. That healed fossil bone isn't just evidence of a recovered injury. It's evidence of compassion, of someone deciding that this person's life matters enough to fight for, even at a cost. Anthropologists have called this one of the earliest signs of civilization. Not buildings, not tools. A healed, broken bone. Ancient humans also understood something profound that modern neuroscience is only recently confirming. The mind can change how much pain the body feels. Many ancient cultures believed pain came from spirits, demons, or divine punishment. So their healers, shamans, priests, medicine people fought pain with ritual, rhythmic chanting, repetitive dancing, controlled breathing. These weren't just superstition. Modern brain research shows that these exact activities, rhythmic sound, synchronized movement, focused breath, actually lower stress hormones and reduce how intensely the brain registers pain signals. Some shamans even drilled holes into the skulls of patients suffering from crushing migraines or pressure-related conditions. This practice, called trepanation, was performed across ancient Peru, Europe, and Africa. And here's the thing, many of those skulls show bone regrowth around the hole, meaning the patient survived. The procedure worked well enough that the person lived for years afterward. These ancient healers were operating without a single piece of modern equipment, and some of them were drilling into human skulls and saving lives. So here's what you now know that most people never think about. Ancient humans did not just endure pain helplessly. They built a whole world of strategies around it. Plants, heat, electricity, movement, community, ritual, and the raw power of the human mind. Some of these strategies became the foundation of every painkiller, every therapy, and every surgical technique we rely on today. The aspirin in your medicine cabinet, a willow tree, the morphine in a hospital, an ancient poppy field, the electrotherapy machine in a clinic, a Roman doctor and a fish, the idea that community care heals people, a prehistoric tribe that refused to leave someone behind. Ancient humans weren't primitive. They were paying attention to the world around them, to each other, and to the extraordinary healing power locked inside the human body itself. And maybe the most mind-blowing thing of all, the most effective painkiller they had wasn't a plant or a ritual or a technique. It was simply not being alone.